Hello snowboarders of the internet, I'm your host Avran LeFeber, and in this video we're going to be reviewing the Yes Pick Your Line. This board features Yes's 142 directional cam rocker, so what you get is mellower rocker in the tips, more camber underfoot. That's going to give you the load, pop, snap, and drive right underfoot. But with that rocker out in the tips, that's going to allow for a better powder float as well as ease of entry in and out of turns. This board is available in 156, 159, 160 wide, 162, 164 wide, and 165. I rode this board at Copper Mountain on a day that had gray skies with high visibility. You had dust on crust with leftover pow, cold temps, chopped chunder, a little bit of ice, and I rode it with my Rome Black Label bindings and my K2 Thraxis boots. This board's on the stiffer side for sure. I mean, I wouldn't put it all the way out in plankland, but it is a stiffer, more freeride oriented board. You do have a directional flex in it, so that means softer nose that stiffens up midway back to the front insert, and then it just progressively stiffens up back from there. There's a little bit of torsional flex, but nothing crazy about it. When it comes to the stability, there's things that we need to talk about, like how does it chatter at high speeds with the nose? How does it do in lumpy ass terrain, and how does it set down when you drop something or pop off something? With this board, what you get is a little bit of chatter that reverberates back underfoot from that nose. You just get a little bit of flap, but it's not overwhelming. And then when you're plowing through chop and chunder, you feel it underfoot, but that camber section just wants to keep plowing through everything. And when you drop off something, yeah, it's gonna absorb everything, but your back is gonna feel it later. So live in the moment, people. Pay for it later. That's the way it is. That's what your parents would have wanted anyways. It's stable to a point. You are gonna feel it at the end of the day. So with this board, you've got to load that camber section up, and it's a bit more rigid. You'll notice that right away. It takes a little more effort just to load it up, and when you roll back on the tail, it engages and it springs. Overall, you're like, oh, this board isn't that snappy, but when you power load it and you've got speed, this thing boosts. It wants to get you in there. It's gonna launch off everything in its path. The flex of this board takes a bit of effort just to butter with it. You're gonna notice that you end up muscling it around. The nose is easier to engage than the tail. So when you pop a 180, you land in that nose, you're really pressing into it, expect a lot of rebound. And when it comes to the tail, put your weight into it, flex the crap out of that board, and pray to whatever God you believe in and hope for the best. That's the way I look at it with this board. This board can turn fine, but when you really crank it over into a carve, that's when you start to notice the limitations. And one of the things we need to talk about with this board is the tapered underbite and the reference stance on it. The reference stance on this one, which I rode the 159, is huge. And as such, I had my front foot inside that tapered underbite, which on edge, that front foot would disengage and skid out on me. It was when I had my weight on the back foot where I had that edge bite right underfoot, it would grip and hold on perfectly fine. It was very rear foot dominant. Now, like I said, when I'd lay it over on edge, it would skid out, and that's part of the limitations with it. It was those sharp, tight, quick turns that were relatively easy, medium mellow cars, but when I tried to just lay a trench with it, it was kicking out on me left and right. So if you're bigger and you've got a wider stance, you're probably gonna be fine. But if you're shorter or you ride a narrower stance, understand that you've got to kind of play around with your stance to figure out how to get it to sit on that edge tech so that you do get that grip. Who's this board for? The pow chasing free ride guy. So I wasn't overly impressed with this snowboard. It's a snowboard. It did snowboard things. I mean, what did stand out to me was that snap off the tail when you load up that camber. It just has a ton of pop. And the weird thing was the first part of that tapered underbite. It's outside where my stance would be. It just wouldn't engage unless I was on the back foot. That's just kind of weird to me. And also the fact that this thing had a monster reference stance, which whatever. Overall, it's a snowboard. It does snowboard things. Comparable boards, the Burton Hometown Hero, the Rome Ravine Select, the Jones Flagship, Binding recommendations: the Now Select Pro, the Burton Cartel, the Rome DOD. This has been my review of the Yes Pick Your Line. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you own one? Are you going to buy one? Leave me a comment down below. Let's have a conversation about this snowboard. If you're new here, remember to subscribe, click the bell, get those notifications. That way you're not missing any of the videos we got coming out for all you snowboarders of the internet. And if you really like what we're doing over here and you want to support us further, swing on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP and become a member. Sure, I could tell you more here, but I got a video over there that explains it so much better. As always, I've been your host, Avran LeFeber, and I'll see you in another video.